Alright, guys. So, today, you see that? You see that shadow? Bro, I was working, right? Why, man, dude, why these apartment buildings, right? Big old buildings, too. Like, they got, like, probably like 100 units, right? Nice. It was in, like, you know, the nicer area, like Cerritos and stuff, right? Tell me why, man, like, it was on the first story, right? I mean, it's only two-story, right? So, it was on like the bottom, the bottom ground level, right? Um, I went to deliver. I stepped back to take the picture of the delivery. I go to turn around, run into the stairwell, a staircase. Horrible, horrible designs, man. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? Like, does that tenant have that problem? You know what I mean? Like walking into the staircase. Because apparently I did, you know what I mean? I'm not even that tall. Like, I'm not even 6'0". I'm like 5'10" at, you know, at best. But anyway, that got me mad. Or sad. Really couldn't do anything about it. But anyway, so I wanted to talk about experience, right? Sorry. I, the chili on this. So I'm eating guava right now. Young guava. I'm eating them with like a chili, like chili seasoning. Um, yeah. Anyway, so my thing is I'm experienced, right? So my dad, he planted these guava, and they were massive. This one was pretty big, but I mean I can only show you this one, right? And we don't wait until it's ripe. We eat it like we eat like young mango, right? With chili, cause it has that young sour taste to it. And then it's good when you eat it with like something chili, like like Lucas chili or whatever. So man, what the heck was that? Anyway, um, so experience, right? Like my dad literally has a green thumb, right? Have you guys ever tried gardening? You know how hard it is to have enough experience to have a green thumb when it comes to gardening? It's very hard. Like plants need a lot of nurturing, right? Someone like my dad came to the United States, right, with no education, right? And like growing up, you know what I mean? Like I seen him collect cans for money, um, Tried to do auto mechanic school, but you know what I mean. Like he's a very good auto mechanic. You know what I mean. Like which a lot of non-English speaking people are very good mechanics. They just they can learn how to troubleshoot. You know, technically, a lot of people can learn how to troubleshoot, right? But they just have a hard time passing the test. You know what I mean? A lot of theories, a lot of big words. And so, you know, he never, was able to get certified or graduate from auto mechanic school, right? So that he ended up being a barber. You know, they were get licensed. I don't know how they did it because uh, that you know what I mean. Even getting licensing for like cosmetology and barbering and stuff, right? That's still there's some written parts to it where you just like, dude, like, you know what I mean. So a lot of people do get that. I guess it's a lot easier than becoming an auto mechanic as far as getting state certified goes or licensed goes, right? But anyway, so you would presume like like oh man, you know what I mean, like he has no education or very low in status of whether or not he's capable. You know what I mean? But like a lot of you know people with um, lower quote unquote academic status, they're not. They're, dude, they can survive. They're very smart. Trust me. You know what I mean? I've seen business people that don't speak no English, man. They got a lot of money. You know what I mean? They're very smart and they're very calculated and they're very charismatic too, right? So, but back to my dad being a green thumb, right? So he learned how to farm because he grew up in the village, right? He brings that over to the United States, right? Every time we lived in an apartment or whatever, we always found a spot where grass grew, and he always was able to plant something to grow, right? And growing fruit trees are very hard, and especially growing in the city, right? But he always managed to have a green thumb. I tried just planting basic stuff. I couldn't even get it to grow. You know what I mean? Because it takes a lot of wisdom and experience, right? Okay, I'll give you an example of a story, right? So I try to um uh, I did a community garden space of probably like a few years back, right? And rent out this plot of like this little box, right? You go and stuff. It's just like a part donation to the city or whatever, right? Um, but you also get the plot where you can grow your own stuff, right? Learn how to get a green thumb, learn how to get experience gardening, right? Somewhere along the line, my whole plot, it would never grow anything, right? And the reason why was like if the ground get oversaturated with water, what happens is it turns to mud, and the ground won't is not tilled correctly to where because the soil's too hard at that point, right? I didn't know that. You know what I mean? I'm like, how come my plants aren't growing? You know what I mean? It kept dying, right? Every time I put the seed in there, it either never grew or it grew for like a week and it died, right? It's because the root wasn't strong enough to go through the mud. You know what I mean? So it just suffocated and died. My dad knew that. I don't know how he did it, but he tilled the ground with a shovel and he brought it back to life. So that's what I'm saying. Experience matters. You know what I mean? Like you know, and and that's what I learned from my dad. You know what I mean? Like um, like you can't judge a book by its cover. You feel me? Have a good day. Peace.